My husband hasn't spoken to me in 6 days. Not a word. Not even when I burned dinner last night and the smoke alarm went off. He just opened windows, turned on fans, and went back to his office. The office that used to be our guest room, where he's been sleeping since he found out about Derek. 10 years. That's how long I kept this secret. 10 years of marriage, 2 kids, 3 moves, and countless memories built on a foundation I cracked before we even said I do. Now that crack has split wide open, and my husband is standing on the other side of the chasm, looking at me like I'm a stranger. "It was 10 years ago," I told him when he confronted me. "Why can't you just forgive me?" The look he gave me was worse than anger. It was disappointment mixed with disgust, like he was seeing me clearly for the first time. 10 years of lies, he said quietly. Every day for 10 years you looked me in the eye knowing what you did. That's what I can't forgive, Valerie, not the sex, the decade of deception. But I'm getting ahead of... No, there's no point in dressing this up. Let me just tell it straight. Let me explain how one stupid decision in college has finally destroyed everything I've built. My name is Valerie, and I destroyed my marriage with a secret I kept for 10 years. While my husband was falling in love with me, planning our future, I was sneaking around with his roommate, Derek, behind his back. And now, a decade later, the truth has destroyed us. It started with a Facebook message. Innocent enough. Derek reaching out after all these years. "Hey, Val, been thinking about the old days. Hope you're well." I should have deleted it. Should have blocked him immediately. But I was curious. What harm could one message do? "I'm good," I replied. "Married to Brian, actually. 2 kids. Living in Milwaukee." Brian? My old roommate Brian? Wow, small world. The conversation should have ended there. But Derek kept messaging, and I kept responding. Nothing inappropriate at first, just catching up. He was divorced, living in Chicago, working in finance. Then the messages got more personal. "Do you ever think about senior year?" he asked one night. "Sometimes," I admitted, knowing exactly what he meant. Brian never knew, did he? No, and he never will. Our secret, then, like always. I thought that was the end of it. Derek and I exchanged a few more pleasantries, then the messages stopped. I put it out of my mind, focused on my life. Brian and I were good, solid. He was a wonderful father, a devoted husband. Why dredge up ancient history? But secrets have a way of surfacing, and mine came bubbling up at Brian's 10-year college reunion last month. We almost didn't go. The kids were sick, work was busy, it seemed like too much hassle. But Brian was excited to see his old friends, so we found a babysitter and made the drive to Madison. The reunion was at a hotel downtown, the kind of generic ballroom where hundreds of these events happen. Brian was in his element, reconnecting with fraternity brothers and study group friends. I smiled and played the supportive wife, even though half these people I'd never met. Then I saw Derek across the room. My stomach dropped, cold and heavy. He wasn't supposed to be there. He'd graduated a year after us. But there he was, drink in hand, scanning the crowd. When his eyes landed on me, he smiled and started walking over. "Val." "Wow, you look exactly the same." "Derek, what are you doing here?" "Got invited by some buddies. Figured why not? Is Brian here?" Before I could answer, Brian appeared at my elbow. "Derek? Holy shit, man. How long has it been?" They embraced, all backslaps and genuine joy. My stomach churned as I watched them, remembering how many times Derek and I had been together while Brian was in class, at work, visiting home. How many lies I'd told. How many times I'd kissed Brian with Derek's taste still in my mouth. "Your wife and I were just catching up," Derek said, and something in his tone made my skin crawl. "Remembering the good old days." "The good old days," Brian laughed. "When you ate all my cereal and never cleaned the bathroom?" "Among other things," Derek said, looking at me. The rest of the night was torture. Derek stayed close, making inside jokes that went over Brian's head, touching my arm when he laughed, standing too close. I tried to stay away, but he kept finding me. "You look good, Val," he said when Brian went to the bathroom. "Marriage suits you." "Stop it." "Stop what?" "I'm just talking to an old friend." "We were never friends." "No," he agreed. "We were definitely more than that." Brian came back before I could respond. The three of us stood there. Brian oblivious, Derek smirking, me dying inside. When Derek finally left to get another drink, Brian turned to me. "You okay?" "You seem tense." "Just tired." "Can we go soon?" "Sure. Let me just say goodbye to a few people." While Brian made his rounds, I tried to disappear into the crowd, but Derek found me by the coat check. "Running away?" he asked. "Leave me alone." 10 years and you're still as beautiful as ever. Does Brian know how lucky he is? Don't. Remember that night in my dorm? When Brian was at his parents' house? You couldn't get enough. That was a mistake. All of it was a mistake. Didn't feel like a mistake when you were in my bed. I was 21 and stupid. I'm married now. Happily married. Happily? Then why did you respond to my messages? Why are you here talking to me instead of with your husband? Because you won't leave me alone. Derek stepped closer and I could smell the whiskey on his breath. You know what I think? I think you miss it. The excitement. The danger. Being with someone who actually excited you instead of boring, predictable Brian. You don't know anything about my marriage. I know you spent 6 months telling him you loved him while screwing me. That says a lot about your marriage, doesn't it? I pushed past him, found Brian, and begged to leave. The drive home was quiet. Brian chalked up my mood to the long day, the sick kids, the social exhaustion. He held my hand while he drove, told me stories about his old professors, completely unaware that his whole world was about to implode. The email came 3 days later. Derek, drunk and bitter about some work issue, decided to clear his conscience. Or maybe he just wanted to hurt someone. Either way, he sent Brian everything. Details about our affair, dates, times. Even a photo I'd forgotten existed. Me in Derek's bed, clearly taken in his dorm room, the same dorm room where Brian lived. I was at work when Brian called. "Come home," he said. "Now?" "What's wrong? Are the kids okay?" "The kids are at my mother's." "Come home." I knew. The second I heard his voice, I knew. My hands shook as I drove, my mind racing through explanations, excuses, pleas. But what could I say? How do you explain betraying someone before they even knew they needed to guard their heart against you? Brian was sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in, laptop open in front of him. He looked older than when I'd left that morning, like he'd aged years in hours. "Is it true?" he asked without preamble. "Brian, is it true?" I sat down across from him, my legs too weak to stand. "Yes." The word hung between us like a death sentence. Brian's face crumpled, then hardened, then went completely blank. 6 months, he said. "Derek says it was 6 months." It didn't mean anything. 6 months of fucking my roommate didn't mean anything? Hearing him say it out loud made it real in a way it hadn't been in years. I'd packaged it in my mind as a brief indiscretion, a footnote in our story. But 6 months wasn't brief. 6 months was deliberate. "When?" he asked. "I need to know when." "Senior year, September through February." "Be more specific." "Brian, please. Be more specific?" So I told him. How it started at a party when Brian was visiting his sick grandmother. How Derek and I had been drinking, flirting, crossing lines we shouldn't have crossed. How one night turned into a week, turned into months of sneaking around. "You met my parents during that time," Brian said, his voice hollow. "At Thanksgiving. You sat at their table, let my mother fuss over you, knowing you were sleeping with my roommate. I ended it. Before you proposed, I ended it." "How generous of you." "Brian, please." "It was 10 years ago." We were kids. I was a kid who loved you, who trusted you, who was planning our life together while you were... He stopped, unable to finish. Can't we work through this? People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake, Valerie. A mistake is kissing someone at a party. This was 6 months of deliberate deception, 6 months of looking me in the eye and lying, and then 10 years of keeping that lie. I wanted to tell you. When? When did you want to tell me? Before our wedding, before we bought our house, before we had children? When exactly were you planning to mention that you'd been fucking Derek? I flinched at the venom in his voice. This wasn't my Brian, my gentle husband who never raised his voice, who solved problems with logic and patience. This was someone new, someone I'd created with my betrayal. I love you, I said desperately. That's what matters. I chose you. I married you. I built a life with you. You built a life on a lie. Every day of our marriage has been tainted by this. Every memory, every milestone, every moment I thought was real was actually just, what, a performance? No. What we have is real. My love for you is real. Your love for me was so real that you spent 6 months in another man's bed. Your love was so real that you let me live in ignorance for a decade. Your love was so real that you only stopped because Derek got bored and moved on. That's not what happened. Isn't it? Because that's what his email says. That he ended it because he graduated and didn't want to be tied down. That you begged him to keep seeing you. That you only settled for me because he didn't want you. The words hit like physical blows, because there was truth in them. I had begged Derek not to end things. I had cried when he said it was over. I had turned to Brian for comfort, never telling him he was consoling me over the loss of his roommate. I fell in love with you, I insisted. Really fell in love. Derek was just excitement, danger, but you were real. I was your second choice. Your safe option when your first choice rejected you. That's not true. Then why didn't you tell me? If you really loved me, if what we had was real, why didn't you tell me the truth? I didn't have an answer that wouldn't damn me further. The truth was, I didn't tell him because I knew he'd leave. I didn't tell him because I wanted both, the excitement with Derek and the future with Brian. I didn't tell him because I was selfish and 21 and convinced I could have everything. I need you to leave, Brian said finally. What? Pack a bag and go to your sister's. I need space to think. Brian, please. Let's talk about this. Let's figure out how to move forward. Move forward? He laughed, but it was bitter, broken. There is no forward, Valerie. You killed that 10 years ago. You just let me live in the corpse of our relationship because it was convenient for you. What about the kids? I'll tell them you had to go away for work. We'll figure out the rest later. You're just giving up? Throwing away 10 years? I'm not the one who threw it away. You did that when you decided my roommate was worth more than my trust. I packed in a daze. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop. The photos on our dresser mocked me. Our wedding, our children's births, family vacations. All those smiling faces, unaware that the foundation was rotten. I know you can't see it now, I said at the door, but what we have is worth saving. We have children, Brian, a home, a life. We have nothing, he said, not looking at me. We never did. I just didn't know it. That was 6 days ago. I've been at my sister's house in Naperville, calling and texting Brian with no response. I've tried everything, apologizing, rationalizing, begging. Nothing works. He's shut down, shut me out, shut the door on any possibility of reconciliation. My sister thinks I'm an idiot. You slept with his roommate for 6 months and never told him? She said when I explained. Jesus, Valerie, how did you think this would end? It was 10 years ago. I thought it was buried. Nothing stays buried forever, especially not something like this. People make mistakes. Marriages survive affairs all the time. Current affairs, maybe, with counseling and work, but this, you let him build his whole life on a lie. You let him think he knew you, trust you, believe in you, all while hiding this massive betrayal. That's not a mistake. That's a con. She's right. I see that now. Every day Brian and I were together, I was conning him, letting him believe in a version of me that didn't exist, the faithful girlfriend who became the devoted wife. Meanwhile, the real me, the one who'd spent months betraying him with his friend, was hidden away like a guilty secret. Derek has tried to contact me since the explosion, texts saying he's sorry, he was drunk, he didn't mean to ruin my life. I haven't responded. What's the point? He's not sorry. He knew exactly what he was doing. Maybe he wanted to hurt Brian for some perceived slight. Maybe he wanted to hurt me for choosing Brian in the end. Maybe he just wanted to watch something burn. Whatever his reasons, he succeeded. My marriage is over. Brian has already contacted a divorce lawyer. I know because our credit card statement shows the consultation fee. $250 to start dismantling 10 years. I keep thinking about specific moments, wondering if they were ever real. Our wedding day, when Brian cried as I walked down the aisle, was he crying for me or for the woman he thought I was? The birth of our son, when he held my hand and told me I was the strongest woman he knew, would he have said that if he knew the truth? Last Christmas, when he surprised me with a weekend getaway because I'd been stressed at work, would he have been so thoughtful if he knew about Derek? The answer, of course, is no. Brian loved a fiction, and I was the author, carefully crafting a character he could fall for while hiding the real story. My children know something's wrong. My daughter, 8 and perceptive, asked why Daddy sounded sad on the phone. My son, only 5, wants to know when we're going home. I don't know what to tell them. How do you explain to children that Mommy broke Daddy's heart before they were even born? Give him time, friends say when I tell them we're having problems. I don't tell them the whole truth. It's too humiliating. He'll come around. 10 years and 2 kids mean something, but they don't understand. Those 10 years mean nothing now. Every memory is poisoned, every moment tainted by the knowledge of what I did and what I hid. Brian isn't just processing an affair. He's rewriting our entire history, seeing every day through the lens of my deception. I tried to see him yesterday. Drove to our house, his house now, hoping to talk face to face. His car was in the driveway, but he wouldn't answer the door. I could see him through the window, sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. He looked hollow, emptied out, like someone had scooped out everything that made him Brian and left just the shell. "Please," I called through the door, "just talk to me." 5 minutes. He came to the door but didn't open it. "There's nothing to say, Valerie." "There's everything to say. We have 10 years. We have nothing. We never did. That's what you don't understand. Every day of our marriage was based on a lie. Every "I love you" was attached to an asterisk. Every moment I thought was real was actually a performance. You didn't just cheat on me with Derek. You stole 10 years of my life by letting me love someone who never existed. I do exist. I'm real. My love for you is real. The woman I married wouldn't have slept with my roommate. The woman I married wouldn't have lied to me for a decade, so either you're not her or she never existed. Either way, I don't know you, and I don't want to. He walked away from the door, leaving me standing on the porch of what used to be my home. Neighbors peeked through curtains, probably wondering why I was crying on my own doorstep. Let them wonder. Let them gossip. None of it matters anymore. The worst part is that I know Brian's right. I did steal 10 years of his life. Every decision he made was based on false information. Would he have proposed if he'd known about Derek? Would he have wanted children with me? Would he have taken the job in Milwaukee, bought this house, planned our future? Every major life choice he made was contaminated by my lie. And now, at 35, he has to start over. Not just from a divorce, but from the realization that the last decade of his life was built on a foundation of deception. Why didn't you just tell him? my sister asked last night. At any point in 10 years, why didn't you just come clean? I was scared. Of what? Of this. Of losing him. Of him looking at me the way he's looking at me now. So instead, you let him waste a decade on someone who didn't respect him enough to tell the truth? That's what it comes down to. Respect. I didn't respect Brian enough to let him make an informed choice about our relationship. I took that choice away from him, decided for both of us that ignorance was better than honesty. And in doing so, I disrespected not just him, but our entire relationship. Derek, meanwhile, has moved on with his life. The crisis he created in mine was just a blip in his. He's probably at some bar in Chicago right now, telling the story of his college conquest to impress some woman who doesn't know any better. He doesn't have to live with the consequences. He doesn't have to see Brian's face when he realized his whole marriage was a lie. He doesn't have to explain to 2 children why Daddy won't come home. 10 years. A decade of birthdays, anniversaries, holidays. A decade of inside jokes and shared dreams. A decade of building a family, a home, a life. All of it meaningless now, corrupted by a 6-month affair that meant nothing to me but everything to the man I betrayed. It was 10 years ago, I keep saying, as if time somehow lessens the betrayal. But for Brian, it's not 10 years ago. For him, it's right now, fresh and raw and devastating. He's not processing an old wound. He's experiencing a new one, delivered by the person he trusted most. I think about our wedding vows: love, honor, and cherish, forsaking all others, in sickness and in health. I broke those vows before I even spoke them. Stood in that church in my white dress, promising fidelity to a man I'd already betrayed. Let him slide that ring onto my finger, knowing full well I didn't deserve it. The house is going on the market next week. Brian texted me, the first contact in days, to let me know. No emotion, just business. Realtor coming Tuesday. Please remove personal items by then. Personal items. Like our life together is just stuff to be sorted and divided. Like 10 years can be packaged up and labeled his, hers, trash. I'll go when he's at work. Pack up my clothes, my jewelry, the things that are unquestionably mine. But what about the rest? The photos, the mementos, the tangible evidence of a life lived together? Do I have any right to those? Does someone who built their marriage on deception get to keep the memories? My phone buzzes. Another text from Derek. I'm sorry, Val. I never meant for this to happen. If there's anything I can do, I delete it without responding. What could he possibly do? Unsend that email? Unsleep with me all those times? Unruin my life? No, this is my fault. Derek was just the catalyst. I'm the one who cheated. I'm the one who lied. I'm the one who let Brian build his life on a false foundation. Derek may have lit the fuse, but I'm the one who laid the dynamite 10 years ago and then forgot it was there. Tomorrow I'll go to the house. Pack my things. Try not to linger over the life I'm leaving behind. Try not to think about Brian starting over at 35, trust shattered, heartbroken by someone he thought he knew. Try not to imagine him telling some future woman about his first marriage, warning her that people aren't always who they seem. 10 years ago, I made a choice. I chose excitement over loyalty, passion over trust, Derek over Brian. And then I chose to hide that choice, to bury it deep and hope it never surfaced. I chose to build my marriage on a lie and pray the truth would never come out. Now the truth is out, and I'm finally facing the consequences of choices I made when I was too young and selfish to understand their weight. Brian will move on, eventually. He'll heal, slowly. He'll find someone who deserves his trust, who won't betray him with his roommate or anyone else. But me? I'll always be the woman who had everything and threw it away for 6 months of sneaking around with Derek. I'll always be the woman who stole 10 years from a good man because I was too cowardly to tell the truth. I'll always be the woman who learned too late that some betrayals can't be forgiven, no matter how much time has passed. It was 10 years ago, I whispered to my reflection in my sister's guest bathroom mirror. The woman staring back at me looks tired, defeated, every one of her 35 years showing in the lines around her eyes. 10 years ago. But for Brian, for my marriage, for the life we built together, it might as well have been yesterday. Time doesn't heal wounds kept in the dark. It just lets them fester, growing more poisonous each year, until they finally burst and destroy everything they touch. I had 10 years to tell the truth, 10 years to come clean, 10 years to respect my husband enough to let him decide if I was worth forgiving. I chose 10 years of lies instead, and now I'm paying the price for every single one of them.